They say Pioneer Station disappeared in 1978. Not destroyed, not decommissioned, just forgotten by the world that promised to remember, spinning silent in the dark where budgets and interest couldn't reach, where 12 souls once dreamed of a future that never arrived, where hope calcified into legend and legend faded into static. You approach through the debris field of the 1970s, through the orbital graveyard of abandoned ambition, where paint cans and welding tools still orbit like metallic satellites, each one a monument to the moment when humanity looked up and decided the stars could wait, when the dream of living among the cosmos was packed away with the leftover rivets and the unfulfilled blueprints. The rotating torus catches sunlight on its 17 miles of aluminum and hope, spinning silent in the dark with mathematical precision, each rotation a heartbeat that has continued 4 decades without human witness, each window a dark eye watching the earth below, each panel bearing the scars of micrometeorites in time, each shadow hiding the stories that the world forgot to ask about. NASA lost the funding in the autumn of 1978. The world lost interest when the headlines changed. But the station kept spinning with mechanical loyalty, kept generating gravity through centrifugal force, kept the lights on and the air moving and the hydroponics growing for no one, for nothing, for the possibility that someone might return to find it waiting. You dock manually because the automatic systems failed in 1983, the airlock groaning with a sound not heard since the Carter administration, metal grinding against metal with the protest of long disuse, seals that have remained compressed for 40 years suddenly asked to perform their function again, reluctantly, noisily, finally. The hatch seal breaks with a sigh that sounds almost human, equalizing pressure with a ghost that has been holding its breath since October, the rush of air carrying the scent of rust and ozone and something else, something that might be hope or might be despair, something that has been waiting in the dark for 4 decades to be inhaled again. The first breath of Pioneer Station in 40 years tastes like rust and ozone, and the particular mustiness of recycled air that has filtered through the same lungs too many times, metallic on the tongue, ancient in the lungs, carrying the molecular memory of everyone who ever called this place home, everyone who ever exhaled their secrets into these vents. Your boots hit carpet with a sound that is impossibly domestic, actual carpet in space, beige and institutional and worn thin in the high-traffic areas, each fiber holding the compressed footsteps of a community that lived and loved and argued and celebrated on this impossible floor, spinning through the void on a wheel of hope. Overhead fluorescents flicker to life with the hesitation of old men waking from long sleep. Someone left them on standby all those years ago, waiting for this moment, waiting for the return that never came until now, each flicker a Morse code message from the past, each hum a lullaby for the ghosts. A sign welcomes you home with typography from another era, pioneer humanity's second home. Someone crossed out second with angry strokes that bled through the plastic laminate, a political statement or a psychological one, an acknowledgement that this place was never secondary to those who lived here, never second best to those who had no other. The airlock chamber holds 3 space suits in orange jumpsuit configuration, hanging like empty people on their hooks, one missing its helmet with particular tragedy, the faceplate gaping like a scream frozen in time, the fabric still bearing the impression of the shoulders that once filled it, the name tag catching the fluorescent light. A name tag reads Miller in permanent marker on fabric that has faded from vibrant orange to something like sunset. The suit is still damp with condensation that has collected for 40 years, moisture that has nowhere to go in this sealed environment, sweat and breath and tears that never evaporated, never escaped, never forgot. You enter the main corridor, and it curves upward in both directions with Escher-like impossibility, a Möbius strip of linoleum and beige walls that defies the eye's attempt to find horizon, each step forward also a step up, each perspective shift revealing new angles of abandonment, new compositions of absence, new geometries of loss. The artificial gravity is uneven in the way of all rotating systems. Your coffee sloshes slightly toward the left wall with each step, a liquid reminder that you are walking on the inside of a wheel, that down is merely a convention agreed upon by centrifugal force, that orientation is a choice made by architecture and maintained by faith. A wall-mounted ashtray holds 3 cigarette butts with the particular compression of finished smoking, Benson and Hedges filtered, the tobacco long desiccated but the paper preserved by the station's dry atmosphere, each but a punctuation mark in a conversation that ended mid-sentence, each ash a fossil of relaxation in a place where relaxation was earned. The intercom crackles with a sound that makes you jump, not with voices, but with the static of tape heads touching nothing, the mechanical sound of a system seeking signal and finding only its own emptiness, the audio equivalent of a phantom limb reaching for connection and grasping only vacuum. Emergency lights pulse red in the corner with the rhythm of a heart that has been beating too long. Someone pressed the alarm button in October 1978, and no one released it. The system still crying wolf 4 decades later, still warning of dangers that have long since passed or transformed into something else entirely. You pass a water fountain, and it still works when you press the button, the water arcing with municipal confidence before you realize you shouldn't drink 40-year-old plumbing. But you do anyway, and it tastes like copper memories, like childhood in school hallways, like the particular optimism of public infrastructure that believed in forever. A bulletin board shows rotas from October 1978 with the particular yellowing of old paper, movie night silent running announced in marker that has bled slightly into the cork. The irony of showing a film about saving the last forest in a station that was supposed to save humanity, the layers of meaning accumulating like dust. Someone drew a heart on the calendar around October 14th with careful pencil strokes, then scratched it out with violent pen marks that tore the paper, the archaeology of emotion visible in the layers of graphite and ink, the story of love and loss written in office supplies on institutional timekeeping. The hydroponics bay doors hiss open with pneumatic insistence and humidity hits your face like a greenhouse in July, the air thick with oxygen and moisture, and the particular scent of growing things that have been growing without audience for 4 decades, reaching toward purple lights that have never been turned off. Tomato vines have overtaken the catwalks with vegetative ambition, red fruit dangling in the zero-wind environment with surreal stillness, each tomato a perfect sphere of suspended animation, neither rotting nor ripening further, preserved in the moment of peak redness by the station's careful climate control. Mist hangs in the air with the density of breath in winter, the grow lights casting purple shadows on aluminum walls that have never seen sunlight, creating a color palette that exists nowhere on Earth, a synthetic dawn that has been dawning for 16,000 days, indifferent to human presence or absence. A wheelbarrow sits abandoned with the particular poignancy of interrupted work, half filled with compost, and the dreams of whoever was pushing it when the call came, the handles worn smooth by hands that are now older or gone, the wheel locked in position, as if still navigating some turn that never completed. The irrigation system drips with metronomic precision, each drop echoing in the metal cathedral with the sound of time passing, 40 years of drops adding up to oceans that have been recycled through these same pipes, the same plants, the same air, the closed loop of existence measured in water and light. You find a notebook with pages warped by humidity. Day 400, the wheat looks good. Carolyn smiled today, writ in handwriting that varies with the writer's emotional state. The observation of small joys in an environment of cosmic isolation. The documentation of a life measured in agricultural cycles and human connection. A swing hangs from the ceiling beams with the particular absurdity of childhood in space. A child's toy in an environment where children were never supposed to be. The plastic seat swaying slightly in the ventilation current. The chains that hold it bearing weight they were never designed for. the questions multiplying like the tomatoes. The algae tanks glow emerald with the bioluminescence of life that doesn't need beauty to continue. 40 years of oxygen production for 12 people who left. 40 years of breathing for no lungs. 40 years of converting light into life, into air, into the possibility that someone might return to need it again. A bee floats dead in the air with wings spread in flight position, preserved like amber without the amber by the station's still atmosphere, neither falling nor rising but suspended in the moment of its ending. A pollinator without flowers, a worker without hive, a small death that went unnoticed for decades. Strawberries grow wild through the computer terminals with botanical persistence, nature claiming its silicon dew with runners that have infiltrated keyboards and screens. Red fruit against beige plastic with the color contrast of warning signs. The sweet smell of fruit mingling with the ozone scent of overheating electronics. You enter the residential sector where pod doors stand ajar like whispered secrets, each one revealing a different life interrupted, different dreams deferred, different ways of arranging the small space that was supposed to be temporary, that became permanent, that became forgotten, that became yours to discover. Room 304 contains a waterbed that is still waving gently with the station's rotation, the wave motion synchronized to the wheel's turn, creating a sleep surface that rocks its occupant with the rhythm of orbital mechanics, the ultimate waterbed experience created by physics rather than design. Posters on the wall show Farrah Fawcett's hair and Star Wars, and a kitten hanging from a branch with equal importance. The iconography of 1978 preserved in paper and ink, the cultural touchstones that connected these space dwellers to the earth they left, the shared references that maintained their humanity. A lava lamp sits on the nightstand, still warm, still flowing in slow motion with the wax blobs rising and falling in their endless dance. The heat source never failing, the cycle never stopping. A meditation object that has been meditating for 40 years without human witness, waiting for someone to watch it again. A Walkman rests on the pillow with headphones arranged as if for ears that aged 40 years ago. The cassette inside waiting to release its magnetic memories. The play button raised in invitation. The technology of portable solitude that defined a generation, now waiting to define this moment. You press play and Fleetwood Mac fills the corridor with perfect appropriateness. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow echoing through the empty station with the irony of prophecy unfulfilled. The speakers that have been silent for decades suddenly testifying to the optimism that built this place, that launched these people, that believed. A half-eaten sandwich floats near the ceiling with peanut butter preserved perfectly by the dry atmosphere. No jelly because jelly would have spoiled. The practical cuisine of space interrupted by departure. The mundane detail of lunch that became archaeology, that became art, that became a monument to appetite. A diary entry pinned to the mirror reads, "I'll stay another month. The view is better here," in handwriting that grew more confident with each word. The decision to remain becoming easier with repetition. The justification becoming truth through iteration. The mirror reflecting both the writer and the reader across time. Clothes hang in the closet with the particular arrangement of daily use, bell-bottoms and NASA logo polo shirts, and one wedding dress in plastic with the preservation of hope, the wardrobe of a life that was being lived fully even as it was being left behind, the fashion of a future that never arrived. The bathroom mirror shows your reflection with the clarity of 40 years of undisturbed dust, and behind you a figure stands in the doorway with the particular posture of watching. You turn, and there is nothing but the fluorescent hum and the air circulation, and the knowledge that you are alone with your perceptions. The recreation deck opens with the smell of shag carpet that has been off-gassing for 4 decades, orange and pungent with memory, the color of the 70s preserved in acrylic fiber, the texture of leisure underfoot, the weight of entertainment in a place where entertainment was survival. A pool table dominates the center with balls racked for a break that never came, The green felt still taut, the geometry of angles and pockets waiting for the physics of collision, the social ritual of competition that was abandoned mid-preparation, the triangle still perfectly arranged after all these years. Cue sticks lean against the wall with blue chalk dust still coating the tips, the preparation for play that was interrupted, the casual leaning that suggests temporary absence rather than permanent departure, the tools of recreation waiting for hands that have aged or ceased. A television set with rabbit ears shows snow with the particular pattern of the Big Bang playing on loop, the static that fills the screen when no signal is received, the cosmic background radiation made visible, the universe's birth and death in black and white pixels. Bean-bag chairs arranged in a circle suggest discussion group, or intervention or seance with the democratic positioning of no leader, the informal seating of serious conversation, the arrangement of bodies in space that indicates community, that indicates care, that indicates absence. A popcorn machine holds kernels in the hopper waiting for heat that never arrived, the potential for transformation from seed to snack suspended in time, the anticipation of entertainment preserved in dry storage, the smell of hot oil that never filled this air. Board games on the table show Monopoly with the little dog piece, standing alone on boardwalk with the particular loneliness of abandoned play, the accumulation of wealth and property that signifies nothing in this context, the capitalism of entertainment that required players who are no longer present. A macrame plant holder suspends a spider plant that is dead now but architectural in its desiccation, the bohemian craft of the 70s supporting botanical life that has completed its cycle, the art of the hanger outlasting the art of the grown, the knotwork still intricate despite its uselessness. The window looks down on Earth with clouds swirling over oceans you cannot name from this altitude, the blue marble that launched 1,000 stations, that inspired this particular wheel, that continues below while this particular dream spun to a halt above, the view that was worth staying for. Someone wrote help in the condensation, or maybe hello hard to tell from the smudging of 40 years of temperature fluctuations, the cry for assistance or the greeting of the lonely, the message that was meant for someone who never came to read it, the fog that preserved it and obscured it. The command center doors require a key card, and you swipe the one you found in Miller's suit with the intimacy of using a dead man's access, the light turning green with the permission of the past, the heavy doors opening with the reluctance of long closure, the threshold of authority crossed without authorization. Computers wake up with the scream of tape drives spinning up like waking dragons, the mechanical protest of systems that have been dormant too long, the CRT monitors glowing green with the phosphor of resurrection, the digital minds that have been dreaming in standby, ready to report their dreams. CRT monitors glow green with the text life support 98% population zero in the brutal honesty of machine observation, the statistics of survival without the living, the maintenance of systems for absent users, the persistence of function without purpose. A coffee cup sits on the main console with lipstick on the rim in red bold against the beige ceramic, the intimate trace of human presence, the pause in work for refreshment, the moment of self-care in the serious business of command, the color that identifies the drinker as female as bold as care. The captain's chair rotates to face you slowly as if pushed by invisible hands, with the particular timing of mechanical coincidence interpreted as supernatural, the seat that held authority now offering itself to your weight, the position of command that was abdicated now waiting for occupancy. Mission logs stack in wire baskets with 3,000 pages of routine checks that document the extraordinary in the language of the mundane, the daily verification of systems that kept 12 people alive, the handwriting that grew more hurried as the end approached, the bureaucracy of survival. A photograph taped to the monitor shows 7 astronauts in formation with 3 faces scratched out with violent precision, the editing of memory by someone who needed to forget, the faces that remained smiling in ignorance of their selection, the damage done to paper representing damage done to history. The radar screen sweeps with mechanical regularity and shows something approaching something massive then gone, with the particular tease of detection without confirmation, the possibility of contact that dissolves into imagination, the space between blips filled with hope and fear. A red button under glass labeled manual override waits for your finger that hovers but doesn't press with the restraint of the wise or the cowardly. The power to change everything available but refused, the moment of decision that is itself a decision, the button that will be pressed later or never. The captain's log plays on audio with the captain's voice saying, "We're staying, they can have Earth, we have each other," in the defiance of abandonment. The choice that was made to remain rather than return. The declaration of independence from planetary gravity and planetary politics. Engineering deck smells like ozone and hot metal, with the particular scent of power being generated for no one. The core humming a lullaby that has been sung for 40 years without audience. The machinery that maintains the dream that has been forgotten. The engineering of persistence. Warning labels everywhere declare "do not touch" and authorized personnel, only to a reader who is neither. The signage that protects the ignorant from the dangerous. The hierarchy of knowledge that has collapsed with the hierarchy of command. The warnings that now warn only themselves. The reactor glows blue through leaded glass with the Cherenkov radiation that is beautiful poison. The light of particles moving faster than light in water. The visual manifestation of power that could destroy or sustain. The blue that is the color of both a maintenance cart, blocks the corridor with tools scattered like bird bones around an interrupted task. The archaeology of work in progress. The sudden departure that left everything as it was. The possibility that the worker will return to complete what was started. A welding mask hangs from a pipe with the glass blackened, burned from the inside with the particular horror of inward destruction. The protection that failed. The face that was seen by the flame. The evidence of catastrophe that was cleaned up but not erased. Pipes drip condensation with each drop containing a rainbow in its brief existence before hitting the grate and being gone. The beauty of physics in the mundane. The spectrum of light in waste water. The moment of color that is also the moment of loss. A Geiger counter clicks with slow, steady rhythm like a watch counting something other than time. The measurement of danger that is present but not immediate. The background radiation of space and machinery. The ticking that is not a bomb but a reminder of its possibility. Blueprints on the wall show the station was supposed to hold 10,000 people, but held 12 with the scale of ambition, meeting the reality of budget. The architectural dream of cities in space reduced to a village. The lines on paper that promised more than they could deliver. A bicycle hangs from the ceiling for exercise or escape or art, with the ambiguity of objects removed from context. The wheel that turns for no road. The transportation that goes nowhere. The exercise that maintains fitness for a return that never came. The air filtration unit roars with 40 years of filtering nothing but itself. The closed system that processes the same air through the same filters. The breath of the dead recirculated to the living. The atmosphere that is older than most of the people who ever breathed it. Medical Bay shows sterile white that was before the moss came with the particular green of life, finding purchase in the cracks of clinical perfection. The invasion of nature into the space of science. The color of growth overwhelming the color of cleanliness. Examination table holds paper that crinkles when you sit with the sound of a patient who was here mid-examination. The interruption of medical care. The body that was being measured when the measuring stopped. The paper that preserved the impression of absence. Cabinets hold pills in amber bottles with labels reading for the silence take as needed in the prescription of emotional management. The medication of isolation. The pharmaceutical solution to the problem of distance from Earth and proximity to void. A skeleton collapses against the wall, but no, it is a space suit empty, leaning like tired bones with the particular posture of exhaustion. The fabric that held form now surrendered to gravity. The orange color that identified life now signifying its absence. Surgical tools on a tray show rust spots that look like dried blood, and probably are with the particular color of oxidized iron matching oxidized life. The instruments that cut and sewed now corroding together, the medical precision dissolved by time and chemistry. X-ray light boxes still glow with images of hands of chests of something not quite human in the bone structure. The medical mystery that was being investigated when the investigation ended. The images that diagnose a condition that no longer matters or matters more than ever. A nursery for bobbies born in orbit contains a crib with a mobile above it with paper planets, and one has fallen Earth with the symbolism of planetary loss. The decoration that educated about astronomy while failing to secure its subject. The fallen world that can be restored. A stuffed rabbit rests on the pillow with ears threadbare, loved into baldness by small hands that are now grown or gone. The companion that absorbed tears and secrets. The fur that wore away where it was held most often. The object that outlasted the love that shaped it. A growth chart on the wall shows Jimmy, age 4, with pencil marks stopping at 4 feet with the particular tragedy of measurement interrupted. The documentation of development that ended at a number. The height that was achieved and never exceeded. The child who was growing and then wasn't. The library contains wood paneling and actual books with the smell of vanilla, and decay that old paper develops. The physical knowledge that requires no electricity. The encyclopedias that promised the future and documented the past, the weight of information in a weightless environment. An encyclopedia volume titled Space, Travel the Next 50 Years from 1977, shows optimism bound in leather with the predictions that failed to predict this abandonment. The confidence of an era that believed in progress without interruption, the future that was imagined and then forgotten. A newspaper from October 15, 1978 headline Station, loses funding not station lost with the accuracy of journalism that didn't know what it was reporting. The distinction between budget and existence that would become meaningless. The news that was true and insufficient. Someone circled crossword clues with abandoned 7 letters forsaken, filled in with the self-awareness of puzzle solving. The vocabulary of loss being practiced, the distraction of word games in the face of wordless reality, the letters that spell what cannot be spoken. A rocking chair moves back and forth, with no one sitting. The momentum hasn't stopped with the physics of perpetual motion in a frictionless environment. The energy that was imparted continuing indefinitely, the ghost that is actually inertia, the movement that suggests life without containing it. Card catalog drawers open to reveal Dewey Decimal for disappearance, grief acceptance with the emotional organization of knowledge, the classification of feelings that libraries attempt, the subject headings that guide researchers to the literature of loss. A record player with needle lifting dropping plays the sound of silence with the appropriateness that seems planned. The song that defined an era of alienation, now defining this moment of isolation. The lyrics that were prophetic without knowing their prophecy. Reading glasses on the table have lenses thick as telescope glass, with the magnification of presbyopia. The tools of vision that enabled the reading that enabled the escape. The frames that sat on noses that are no longer present. The prescription that was filled for eyes that have closed. A note tucked in a book reads to whoever finds this: we were happy here with the generosity of the departed to the unknown future. The testament that contradicts abandonment. The message in a bottle that is actually paper in binding. The happiness that was real and remains real in memory. The windows face the stars with no earth visible, just endless dark and pinprick, lights with the vertigo of cosmic perspective, without the comfort of planetary reference. The view that drives astronauts mad or makes them wise, the darkness that is full of light too distant to warm. The cafeteria has trays lined up and spoons in formation ready for an army that disbanded with the military precision of institutional dining. The preparation for feeding that was interrupted. The utensils that wait for hands that have aged or ceased. The order that outlasts the need for order. Food dispensers offer freeze-dried ice cream and Tang Hope in powdered form, with the cuisine of the space age preserved in its original packaging. The treats that made the sacrifice bearable, the sweetness that compensated for the bitterness of distance from home. A table for 12 holds 12 plates, 12 napkins, folded into swans, still standing with the origami of hospitality that survived the abandonment. The preparation for community that persists without community. The art of the table setting that is also the art of hope. A birthday cake 40 years old preserved by dry air has brown icing, and Happy Birthday Jim with candle wax dripped frozen with the celebration that was prepared and never consumed, the wish that was never made, the age that was never reached, the cake that is now monument. The thermos when opened releases steam with 40-year-old coffee, still hot impossible with the violation of thermodynamics that suggests the miraculous. The beverage that has been waiting to be drunk, the heat that has been maintained by faith or failure of physics, the coffee that tastes like time. Salt and pepper shakers shaped like rockets stand cute and deadly serious with the playful design of essential tools, the whimsy that was permitted in the serious business of space, the condiments that made the food taste like Earth, the shapes that launched across tables instead of skis. A newspaper open to comic shows Garfield hatting Mondays with the universal sentiment that transcends species and gravity. The cat that defined an era of cynicism, now commenting on this situation with perfect accuracy. Every day was Monday here in the sense of repetition and reluctance. A jukebox in the corner plays Rocket Man when you select B17 with the inevitability that seems scripted. The song that was written for this moment before this moment existed, the lyrics that describe the very situation you are inhabiting, the music that makes the silence bearable. The dance floor shows scuffed wood with 2 sets of footprints worn in from slow dancing, with the choreography of intimacy that repeated, until it left permanent marks, the geography of romance that can be read like a map, the wear patterns that tell a love story in wood grain. The observatory dome opens to vacuum with glass separating you from forever with the fragility of transparent protection, the barrier that is also a window, the material that admits light but not atmosphere, the view that requires courage to approach. A telescope points at a specific star not random, but targeted with the intentionality of communication or destination, the astronomical observation that was also a message, the coordinates that meant something to someone who knew their meaning, the star that was selected for significance. Star charts on the table show circled coordinates with home written in shaky hand, with the longing that transcends astronomy, the navigation toward origins rather than destinations, the map that points backward in time and space, the handwriting that reveals the emotional state of the cartographer. A red laser pointer draws constellations on the wall with patterns that don't match ours with the astronomy of another perspective. The shapes that connect different dots, the mythology that was being created for this sky rather than inherited from ancient Earth, the new stories written in light. The moon rises through the window full and watching with the particular knowledge of satellite to satellite. The companion that has been with Earth as long as this station has been without, the face that looks down on both the abandoned and the abandoning with equal indifference. A Ouija board on the floor holds the planchette on goodbye with the finality of spiritual communication, the message from beyond that is also a farewell, the game that became real through repetition or belief, the board that answered questions with the answer that ends questioning. Pillows arranged for stargazing hold 2 indentations preserved with the comfort of shared astronomical observation, the preparation for intimacy that was used and left, the shapes of heads that rested together looking up, the foam that remembers what the sky witnessed. A bottle of wine, Chateau 1969 anniversary of moon landing waits with the vintage of historical commemoration, the beverage that aged while the dream aged, the celebration that was planned for an achievement that was overshadowed by later failures, the wine that outlasted the reason for opening. Two glasses stand, one full of syrup, one empty, with the evaporation that turned wine to concentrate, the toast that was prepared for two but consumed by time, the full glass that became more full through loss, the empty glass that represents the drinker who departed. A photograph of Earthrise signed by Apollo 8 crew reads to the pioneers, with the acknowledgement of predecessors by those who were first, the gift from one generation of space travelers to another, the image that inspired the station now inspiring its discovery. The gymnasium contains a basketball hoop with ball on floor deflated, tired with the exhaustion of unused potential, the sport that requires gravity and competition, and neither was sufficient here, the sphere that lost its air gradually or suddenly, the game that was over before it started. A treadmill still running shows belt moving counting steps to nowhere with 40-year mileage on display, with the exercise that maintains fitness for a return that never came, the mechanical walking that produces no progress, the fitness that was preserved for use that was denied. Weights on a rack show progressive sizing. Someone was getting strong for what, for Earth, for space, with the bodybuilding that prepared for unknown challenges, the iron that is heavy even in orbit, the strength that was built and then left unused, the muscles that atrophied despite the effort. A punching bag split open has stuffing floating in air like snow, with the violence that was released against leather, the aggression that found its target and destroyed it, the filling that now fills the air with the evidence of anger, the bag that absorbed until it couldn't. A locker room holds towels hung with names on tape, Rodriguez Smith Chin, with the personal identification of institutional life, the textiles that dried bodies that are gone, the labels that persist when the labeled have departed, the hygiene of community that outlasts community. A loofah hangs dry and hard as rock with the archaeology of the everyday, the tool of cleanliness that has become artifact, the vegetable fiber that has mineralized through desiccation, the object that was used daily and is now studied as relic. Deodorant sticks of Old Spice present the scent of grandfathers who never came home, with the fragrance that defines an era of masculinity, the chemical memory of male bodies that have ceased, the protection against odor that has become odor itself, the vintage toiletries as time capsule. A Polaroid on the bench shows a team photo, arms around shoulders, family, with the instant photography that captured camaraderie immediately, the image that developed in minutes and lasted decades, the poses that indicate relationship, the expressions that show happiness that was real. Someone wrote "I love you" on the mirror, and fog has preserved it, temporary made permanent with the condensation that captured breath and words, the message that was meant to be seen and was, the declaration that outlasted the relationship or the life, the mirror that reflects both then and now. The shower runs hot water, steam rising, no one pays the gas bill anymore, with the impossible luxury of heated water in space, the plumbing that works despite abandonment, the steam that rises because physics persists, the bathing that cleanses what cannot be cleaned. Communications array headphones hang on hooks, static humming like beehive with the sound of empty frequency, the audio of absence that is almost presence, the electronic noise that mimics life, the waiting for signal that continues without hope of signal. Morse code key on desk rusted mid-tap, last message incomplete, just SOS. And then with the interruption of distress, the communication that ceased before completion, the key that was pressed and held through corrosion, the call for help that was never answered. Teletype machine, paper jammed, prints CQ, 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 infinitely calling anyone with the repetitive urgency of automated distress, the mechanical persistence of communication attempt. the paper that records the same message until the ribbon fades, the call that is also the answer. A ham radio has vacuum tubes, glowing orange tuning dial spinning by itself, with the supernatural appearance of electronic function, the warmth of filaments that have been warm for decades, the dial that moves without hand, the reception of signals that may not be signals. Voices crackle through, not English, not Russian, something older, the solar wind, singing with the interpretation of random noise as communication, the pareidolia of longing, the hearing of voices in the static that are real because they are heard, the cosmic radio that plays for those who listen. A message in bottle, actually in bottle, floating near antenna array retrieved, contains "We are staying, do not look for us. We are home," with the nautical metaphor in space. The glass that preserves paper, that preserves words. The refusal of rescue that is also the acceptance of fate. Transmission light blinks red on-off on heartbeat or warning, with the ambiguity of signal that could indicate life or danger. The pulse that continues without purpose. The light that communicates only its own existence. The electronic vital sign of the station itself. Satellite photos on walls show Earth from space, each year fewer forests, more light, with the documentation of planetary change that was observed but not prevented. The monitoring that became mourning, the images that show the future that the observers would not return to. Last transmission date October 14, 1978, 11:59 p.m., with the precision of final moments, the timestamp that marks the boundary between communication and silence, the minute before midnight that lasted 40 years, the ending that was recorded but not witnessed. Greenhouse with real dirt smuggled up at great expense, contains roses growing red and thornless, engineered for love not defense, with the botanical modification that removed protection from beauty, the cultivation of vulnerability, the flowers that can be held without injury, the genetic selection for romance. A bench holds book Pride and Prejudice, page 147. My feelings will not be repressed, with the romantic literature that spoke for those who couldn't speak, the page that was significant enough to mark, the words that described the situation of the reader, the Austen that transcended time and gravity. Garden shears rusted open mid-clip, rose frozen, in act of being given with the interruption of gift-giving, the gesture that was halted, the flower that was selected and cut but never presented, the shears that wait for hands that will not return to complete the offering. Sundial dedicated to time, our jailer, useless in space, but beautiful with the irony of timekeeping device in environment without sun shadows, the monument to temporal passage that cannot measure in this place, the poetic injustice of the inscription, the beauty that exceeds function. Wind chimes made from oxygen tanks clang in ventilation breeze, discordant wholly with the repurposing of life support into art, the music of industrial materials, the sacred sound of profane objects, the harmony that emerges from unlikely sources, the breath that sings. Grave marked with antenna cross, beloved friend's small burial, mound with the improvisation of memorial in environment of improvisation. The cross that was not religious until it was needed, the grave that is too small for adult but right for grief, the burial that happened without ceremony. Flowers grow from grave, impossible blue, glowing slightly with the supernatural color of life that shouldn't exist, the bioluminescence that suggests genetic modification or alien influence, the beauty that is also warning, the growth that commemorates through anomaly. Rosary hangs on marker beads worn smooth by worried fingers with the tactile devotion that polished stone through repetition. Grave is empty, just box of letters, love letters to Earth with the epistolary romance that was buried rather than sent, the correspondence with a planet that couldn't write back, the love that was expressed to geology and atmosphere, the box that contains emotion instead of remains. Machines shop with lathes and mills, they were building something new with the creativity of technical minds facing unlimited time, the fabrication that filled the hours with purpose, the machinery that was used to make what wasn't provided, the shop that produced dreams in metal. Blueprints for ship not station arc destination Proxima Centauri with the ambition that exceeded the mission, the design for escape from the escape vehicle, the planning for a journey beyond the journey, the architecture of hope that looked farther than the original dream. Fuel calculations, they were going to leave all of them, escape the gravity well with the mathematics of liberation, the planning for collective departure, the shared resources directed toward shared goal, the calculation that determined when and how but not if. Half-finished hull in bay skeleton of dream ribs of aluminum with the incomplete structure that suggests haste or interruption, the framework that awaited skin, the bones of a vessel that would have carried them away, the construction that was abandoned at the structural stage. Welding gear mask up someone was working when the call came, the recall with the interruption of labor at critical moment, the protection that was donned but not used, the work that was urgent until it was forbidden, the sparks that never flew. Project Exodus banner, they weren't abandoned, they chose with the reframing of narrative from victim to agent, the declaration of independence that was also declaration of stay, the choice that was made to remain while preparing to leave, the paradox of voluntary abandonment. Ship is missing, not scrapped, gone, launched into dark, while Earth slept with the secret departure that was also escape, the launch that happened without permission or witness, the vessel that left without the 12 it was built for, the mystery of the missing ark. 12 seats, 12 harnesses worn, used, empty now, because they're out there with the evidence of occupancy that proves departure, the straps that held bodies that are now elsewhere, the empty seats that suggest presence rather than absence, the vehicle that traveled without its builders. Navigation computer coordinates locked 4.2 light-years Eta, never or always with the destination that is certain, but the arrival that is impossible, the calculation that exceeds human lifetime, the computer that continues computing what cannot be completed. Child's drawing on hull, goodbye Earth, thank you for the trees with the innocence that acknowledges debt, the art that expresses what adults cannot, the gratitude for planetary provision that is also farewell, the crayon that writes on metal what heart feels. Return to command center, radar showing 12 blips moving fast, not ghosts, but pioneers with the confirmation of successful departure, the detection of what was hoped for, the blips that represent human life at interstellar distance, the tracking of the impossible made possible. Transmission, we see you, we remember you, from 12 souls sailing to another sun with the acknowledgement across void, the communication that bridges impossible distance, the memory that persists despite departure, the seeing that is mutual despite the light years between. Red button under glass pressed, reply sent, green light acknowledgement across 4 decades with the connection that is made through technology, the response to the call that was never expected to be answered, the circuit that is completed across time and space, the communication that is also communion. Captain's chair turns, sits and fits perfectly, always meant for you with the destiny that feels like furniture, the seat that accepts your weight as if expecting it, the position of command that is also position of care, the chair that completes the station by being occupied. Monitors show life support 100% population 1 with the statistics of survival that are also statistics of solitude, the systems that function for single user, the percentage that suggests perfection while the number suggests loneliness, the data that tells 2 stories. You are stationed now, gardener, archivist, ghost, and haunted with the identification that is also transformation, the roles that must be filled by single occupancy, the haunting that is mutual between place and person, the ghost that is previous and the ghost that is present. Hydroponics mist feels like breath station is breathing you in with the symbiosis of human and habitat, the moisture that is both atmosphere and respiration, the exchange of gases that is also exchange of being, the breath that is shared between biological and mechanical, 40-year coffee poured tastes like stars, like patience, like home, with the beverage that defies time, the flavor that suggests cosmic origin, the patience that is required for waiting and for brewing, the home that is found in unexpected places. Turntable plays Here Comes the Sun. Beatles appropriate with the optimism that arrives with dawn, the music that was written for this moment, the sun that does rise even in orbit, the song that makes the morning bearable. Orange NASA jumpsuit found. Miller's suit fitting, perfectly, always meant to fit with the destiny that is wearable, the fabric that accepts your form as if measured for it, the name that is not yours but becomes yours through occupancy, the uniform that makes you crew. Helmet locks into place. Hearing own breathing, intimate, vulnerable, alive, with the sensory isolation that creates intimacy with self, the sound of survival that is also sound of solitude, the vulnerability that is acknowledged through protection, the aliveness that is proven by breath. Airlock cycles. Decision point: could leave for Earth or stay, with the threshold that is literal and metaphorical, the choice between return and remain, the door that opens to two futures, the moment that contains all subsequent moments. Choice to stay. Fixed garden play. Records wait for return with the acceptance that is also action, the maintenance of hope through maintenance of station, the waiting that is active rather than passive, the decision to be present for the future. Green light blinking. 12 souls sailing to another sun, with the signal that connects across distance, the acknowledgement that is also promise, the light that represents life at the edge of detection, the communication that continues despite departure. Waving at radar screen. Childish gesture, necessary humanity, with the playfulness that persists in serious situation, the wave that is not seen but must be made, the humanity that is expressed through gesture even without audience, the connection that is attempted despite impossibility. Station spinning. Centrifugal gravity, holding like mother's hand, with the embrace that is physical and metaphorical, the force that protects and constrains, the gravity that is artificial but no less real, the maternal quality of the wheel that turns. Hanging own photograph on wall. 8th crew member. The keeper, with the self-documentation that is also self-commitment, the addition to the crew that is also addition to the history, the keeper who keeps the keeping, the image that represents presence and promise. Artificial night falling. Sleeping in waterbed, rocking gently with the rest that is earned through exploration, the bed that moves with the station's movement, the sleep that is protected by metal and distance, the night that is created by light switch rather than sunset. Morning with grow lights. Waking tomatoes. Redder bees returned with the renewal that is daily and miraculous, the agriculture that continues without farmer, the insects that survive or return, the morning that is artificial but no less morning. Making breakfast. 2 plates, 1 for you, 1 for station, with the ritual that acknowledges relationship, the meal that is shared with place, the companionship with architecture, the breaking of bread with the breadwinner. Intercom crackles. Voice. Good morning. Pioneer your own voice from yesterday with the time loop that is technical or temporal, the recursion that suggests haunting or recording, the greeting that is self-generated, the morning that echoes. Checking logs. Day 14,610, or day 1, depends on counting with the calendar that is relative, the time that is measured by presence or by system, the choice of epoch that is also choice of identity, the number that tells story of duration or beginning. Wedding dress fits. Marrying silence. Spin view with the ceremonial union with environment, the dress that was saved for occasion that never came, the marriage that requires no partner but place, the vows that are made to continuity. Earth rotating below. Nodding respect, not waving old friends, with the mature relationship with planet, the acknowledgement that doesn't demand attention, the respect between entities that have history, the nod that is sufficient communication. Others still out there. Pioneer 2, watering their roses, keeping their graves with the continuity of care across distance, the maintenance of connection through maintenance of symbol, the graves that are tended by the living for the living, the roses that represent persistence. Writing in log found. Occupied. Happy. 3 words for 40 years, with the summary that is sufficient, the emotion that is declared simply, the happiness that is chosen and documented, the brevity that contains multitudes. Sun rising over solar panels, golden hour in geosynchronous orbit with the dawn that is created by position rather than rotation. The light that is captured and converted. The gold that is both color and value. The hour that is precious because it is observed. Fixing lava lamp, red wax flowing like blood, like love, like time, with the repair that is meditation. The liquid that moves with slowness of deep time. The metaphor that is contained in object. The flow that continues when watched. Monopoly game continuing, moving dog piece, buying hotel, winning with the completion of what was suspended. The capitalism of entertainment that reaches conclusion. The dog that travels full circuit. The victory that is hollow but necessary. New transmission from Proxima. We arrived, send more tomatoes with the success that is mundane. The arrival that is celebrated with agricultural request. The tomatoes that represent earth and home. The message that is joke and truth. Laughing sound bouncing down corridors, station learning, joy with the emotion that is audible and infectious. The architecture that responds to feeling. The learning that is mutual between human and habitat. The joy that is shared with walls. Hanging new calendar 2024 crossed out, writing year 1 with the reset that is also beginning. The date that is arbitrary and meaningful. The year that starts now because it is chosen. The calendar that is made rather than followed. Shag carpet feeling good between toes. Earth is concrete, this is cloud with the sensory pleasure of texture. The comparison that defines two worlds. The softness that is luxury in hard environment. The cloud that is walked upon. Pressing red button again, not for help, but for company, beep echoing with the communication that seeks response. The button that becomes companion. The echo that is answer sufficient. The company that is found in mechanism. Ghost in doorway is you from mirror waving goodbye to earth with the self-recognition that is also farewell. The ghost that is reflection that is self. The goodbye that is to planet and to past. The doorway that is threshold between worlds. Stars burning, not twinkling, honest, steady like station with the clarity of space without atmosphere. The honesty of light that doesn't flicker. The steadiness that is also persistence. The burning that is nuclear and true. Not lost, not found, simply here, spinning, breathing with the acceptance that is location without evaluation. The presence that is sufficient. The spinning that is movement and stability. The breathing that is proof and prayer. Coffee never runs out, music never stops, roses never die with the eternal present of maintained system. The plenty that is possible in closed loop. The music that continues because mechanism continues. The immortality of maintained garden. Not limbo, not purgatory, pioneer home with the nomming that is claiming. The rejection of intermediate state for final state. The home that is made, not found. The pioneer that is identity and place. Video ends, viewer blinks, feels gravity weight with the return that is physical. The consciousness that shifts from screen to room. The weight that was forgotten and is remembered. The gravity that is planetary and personal. Station spinning somewhere, orange carpet growing tomatoes with the continuation that is independent of observation. The persistence of place without witness. The agriculture that is mechanical and botanical. The somewhere that is here and elsewhere. Someone in captain's chair watching earth, drinking old coffee with the image that persists in imagination. The vigil that continues in viewer's mind. The coffee that is ritual and comfort. The watching that is eternal because it is imagined. Waiting for you not with urgency but patience, calm of orbit with the invitation that is not demanding. The patience that is learned from mechanics. The calm that is gravitational and emotional. The orbit that is path and metaphor. Signal fatting to static, static is potential with the ending that is also beginning. The noise that contains all signals. The potential that is unrealized but present. The fade that is gentle and final. Goodbye or see you when stars align, pioneer out with the ambiguity of departure. The promise that is conditional on astronomy. The alignment that is rare but possible. The out that is radio sign-off and existential statement.